Alrighty, hi there. Let me put something in the chat just to make sure that that works. And maybe one of you guys can let me know that you can hear me and see me properly. Hi, happy Wednesday or Thursday if you're in a different part of the world. I'm Yenny. I'm pretty excited to get to share a little midweek movement snack with you guys today. And what I thought we'd do for class today is focus on the hips. And that's it's not arbitrary exactly, but I just chose that as a point of focus because we're going to be exploring basically what it means to have functional mobility and stability in the pelvis. And I think the hips are such a great area of the body to explore these concepts in because really functionality comes from having this appropriate blend. Hi, Lee. Hey, nice to see you too. Um, really, the functionality comes from having this appropriate blend of the ability to freely move, but then at the same time to control that movement. So that's where we get the kind of strength that we ultimately can translate into better function in our practice and off the mat and in the rest of our lives as well. And the hips are, I think, really almost like a really good representation of the need for this type of balance in the body because they're kind of like the central core in many ways, and they're part of the quote unquote core. But the function of the hips is so foundational to the health of the spine and the position of the spine. And at the same time, the stability and the strength of the hips also carries downstream and affects how the legs and the feet are working as well. So I think it's super important to have that balance there. And in some ways, it's really nice too that we are able to work or do a little bit of something in one part of the body and potentially feel the effects everywhere else in the body too, which is another concept that I think is kind of woven into the philosophy of the yoga practice, which is that we're just this, we have all these different systems, but everything's interconnected. And we can't really do anything without affecting the other systems, which are then responding to that new change. So everything's kind of like very complex and interwoven. But at the same time, there is this simplicity to just being able to target a specific area, do something there, really feel it, and then notice the tangible effects. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Um, if you have one yoga block, grab that. If you have two, maybe even better, grab both of those. If you don't have blocks at all, just grab a blanket or a large beach towel. And you can fold that up into the shape of a blanket. And you can leave those at the top of your mat. We'll mostly use them towards the end of class, but you might like to have them for some sections in the middle of class too. All right, so let's get started. If you've been to one of these live classes before, you know the drill, which is that I'm going to go over to my mat and I'm going to say a bunch of the same stuff that I just said to you, which is going to be for the recorded version of the class, which will live on the site a little bit later. So if you're not already there, go ahead and head on over to your mat and I will meet you there in just a moment. Hi, friends. I'm Yenny Tarma. Welcome to Yoga Medicine Online, and thank you so much for joining me here today. This is going to be a 60-minute movement class where we really focus on a functional blend of stability and mobility in the hips. So the function of the hips is so crucial to the health of the rest of the body because it's really foundational to the positioning and the function of the spine, and the support and the stability in the hips also carries downstream into the legs and the feet and provides some help there too. So we want to have that good strength and support there, but at the same time, we want this joint to be mobile and we want the ability to control that mobility too. So we'll be exploring all of this as we make our way through practice today. And if you have one block, grab that. If you have two, grab two blocks. If you don't have a block at all, just grab a folded blanket or beach towel and that will work just fine. So let's begin by coming down onto our backs. And you're just settling into any position here that allows you to relax and ease into that process of settling into your body and arriving to your practice. So, really, you can adjust and shuffle and move your limbs around until you arrive at something that feels effortless to maintain. And maybe part of the consideration here is also finding something that allows the pelvis to relax. So legs could be bent or straight. And when it feels like you've landed in a shape that feels comfortable, we'll just start to make our way towards stillness here without letting that notion become restrictive. And of course, any static shape that we take is never completely static. We still have the movement of the breath, all these subtle shifts and changes that are happening beneath the surface, even as we bring maybe the musculoskeletal system more into stillness. You can close your eyes here, or if that doesn't feel comfortable, you're also welcome to just soften your eyelids. But see if you can make that reduction or elimination of the visual stimulus be something that encourages your attention to start to shift inwards a little bit. You're starting to become aware of the internal conditions in your body. Maybe even starting to tune into some of those more subtle processes or movements happening on the inside here. And notice very broadly the feeling of the weight of your body settling into the floor. And what did the points of contact feel like? Are you aware of a specific feeling of pressure or maybe a texture there? What do the parts of your body that are lifted off the floor feel like? Maybe the curve of the neck or the low back, or the little arch in the back of the ankle or the sole of the foot. And then observe more specifically the sensation of the pelvis dropping into the floor. Maybe you're even visualizing the thigh bones settling into their sockets in the hips. Or as you're continuing to soften, maybe there's a tangible sense of release or letting go in the soft tissues around the pelvis or the thighs. And noticing more broadly how those sensations all have a connection to the areas around them too. And then finally, notice the interaction of the body with the breath. And this doesn't have to be anything specific other than just noticing the movement of the breath, the way that the body is effortlessly changing shape or shifting to accommodate the breath. Let's take another few moments just to bathe ourselves in this awareness, letting whatever information bubbles up to the surface. Let's kind of arise in your awareness and trickle up and hang out there. As we slowly begin to move here, feel free to keep your eyes closed so that some of the awareness really stays on the sensation of the movement rather than the physical appearance of it. So start by hugging the right knee in towards the chest, and you're just going to interlace your fingers and loop the sort of basket of your hands around the shin or the knee there, and then straighten your left leg. So just let that left leg lengthen along the floor. Notice the sensations in the right hip here in this flexed position. And then without changing the position of the leg, you're going to try to keep that right leg exactly where it is. You're just going to carefully release your hands from the knee or the shin. Take your arms up and overhead and just press the palms back behind you. And notice if there was maybe just a small shift in the sensations in that right hip, or more specifically in the front hip crease as the shape became more active. If you want, you can hug the thigh a little bit closer to the belly to make that happen. And then we'll switch it out. So bring the left knee in, lengthen the right leg, and bring your hands back down. Got your hold of the left knee or shin there. Take a moment to explore just with your attention the sensations in that left hip there. And then keep your attention there. Notice if anything changes. It could be really subtle as you now actively work to keep the leg from bouncing away from you as you take the arms up and back. All right, let's switch a couple of times between the legs here. So right knee in, left leg out. Catch a hold of the knee there. See if you can keep the leg in place as you release the arms and take them overhead. Switch it out. Left knee in, right leg goes out. Stay tuned to the sensations, the position of the leg as you stretch the arms up and back. Let's do a couple more times each side at your own pace, and check in with the breath. Doesn't have to be anything specific or very detailed, but just make sure that the breath is continuing to move here. And then keep going with the movement. We're just going to add on one more little thing. So we've been kind of honing into the sensation in the hip flexors at the front of the hip. We're going to add on something for the back of the hip as well. So next time you extend a leg, go ahead and press that heel down into the floor, just enough to feel the back of the leg all the way into the back of the hip engage. And then same thing, just release the hands from the bent knee, take those up overhead and switch it out. Extended leg presses down into the floor. And then you're trying to keep that bent leg in place as you take the arms up. Good. Take a couple more rounds there. Maybe you're starting to get a sense of the muscular balance between the front of the hip and the back of the hip, or just getting in tune with the sensations of those muscles engaging. Good. And as you finish up your last round, go ahead and just release your arms down by your sides. Walk your feet over to the edges of your mat, and then just take a little windshield wipering motion here. So allow this to be just a brief letting go from that Uh, Medium intensity work that we were just doing there. So we just explored some flexion and extension. Let's go ahead and start to work on other movements of the hips as well. So bring the soles of your feet together. Let the knees drop wide. Your arms can be wherever you feel most natural having them land. Now listen closely. You're going to pick up your right foot off the floor and then switch the rotation of the leg so that you can tap your right inner heel down towards your mat. So internally rotating the right leg. We're going to switch that back out so you can tap the outer heel of the right foot and then press into the pinky edges of both feet and lift your hips up. See if you can keep the knees carving out and dropping down towards the floor as you do that. Release the knees, hips back down to the floor. Pick up the left foot, switch the rotation. You're tapping left inner heel, left outer heel, pressing into both feet. Lift the hips up. Don't let the knees come up too much. And then release the hips back down. Let's keep it going. Right inner heel, right outer heel. Knees carve out as you lift the hips. With control, lower them down. Left inner heel, left outer heel. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, lower down. All right, a couple more. Right inner heel, right outer heel. Hips rise and then lower down smoothly. Left inner heel, left outer heel. Pick it up, lower it down. Right inner heel, right outer heel. Pick it up, lower down. Left inner heel, left outer heel. Pick up the hips, lower it down. We're going to add on a little bit more. When the hips come back down to the floor, you're going to pick up the feet. See if you can keep the toes and the knees rotated outwards as you now extend the legs out in front of you. Bring that back, release the feet to the floor. Let's keep it going. Right inner heel, right outer heel. Hips lift and lower down. Pick up the feet, keep the rotation, extend the legs. Rebend, left inner heel, left outer heel. Lift up, lower down, pick up the feet, straighten without losing the rotation. Bring that back. Let's do one more time on each side. Right inner heel, right outer heel. Lift, lower, lift the feet, extend, rebend, left inner heel, left outer heel. Lift the hips, release them down, pick up the feet, and then extend, bring that back. Good. And then just release, walk the feet over to the edges of your mat again. Find that windshield wipering motion one more time. And this time you might be feeling this in a slightly more specific way on the inner and outer lines of your thighs and hips there. Take another moment just to rinse that out. Awesome. Let's do one more little bit of a kind of active mobility here. So walk your feet about hip distance apart again. Let's hug the right knee into your chest, and you're going to catch a hold of it with your left hand and extend your left leg long. Take your right arm out to the side, and you're going to pin the right shoulder down to the floor and make sure it stays there. So you're not letting that right shoulder lift as you now start to draw the right knee across the body over to the left. And you're just going to the point where you can still keep that right shoulder pretty firmly pinned on the floor. Now check this out. You're going to press your left hand down into the outside of your right knee or thigh and see if you can press the leg up into the hand. So there's not going to be any movement, but you are going to hopefully feel a little bit of engagement in that outer line of the hip and thigh there. See if you can relax everything else, especially the neck and the jaw here. Awesome. And then release. Now let's bring that right knee back to center. You're going to anchor down through your left leg and then take the right knee out to the side. So we're not trying to get it to the floor. In fact, now we're trying to not let the left hip lift away from the floor. Take your hand to the inside of your right knee or thigh. Press the hand down into the leg. Resist the leg up into the hand. You're hopefully going to feel your inner thigh turn on there. Take a breath in. And a breath out. Perfect. Bring the right knee back to center. Get a hold of it with the right hand or both hands and just kind of circle the knee around a couple of times. So, and imagine the muscles all around the hip just slackening here, releasing as you do that. And let's go over to the second side. Left knee comes in, right leg extends. Take your left arm out to the side and use your right hand to start to draw the left knee across the body over to the right. Your left shoulder is not going to lift away from the floor, so you're just pausing wherever you pause. And then you're going to press the hand down into the leg. You're going to resist the leg up into the hand. No movement, but a pretty active sensation here. Can you relax your shoulders, your jaw? Take another breath. Good. And then relax. Bring the knee back through center. As you pass through the middle there, anchor down through your right leg. Take the left knee out to the side. And then bring the left palm into the inside of the leg. Hand presses down, leg presses up into the hand. Notice your inner thigh, your adductors there. Maybe you feel that kind of zipping up all the way into the groin. One inhale and an exhale. Good. Bring the left knee to the center and then just circle it around. See if you can establish a sort of looseness in the joint here. All righty. Hug both knees into your chest. Let's find our way up to hands and knees. You could rock back to front or roll over to one side. And we're coming up to tabletop position. Now just take a few moments here to kind of shift around. So maybe it's a cat-cow type movement. Maybe there's some side to side motion. You might be observing the swiveling of the thigh bones and the pelvis here, just noticing how those areas are interacting with each other. And then let's land back into something that feels like a neutral tabletop. Spread your fingers into the mat, tuck your toes under, and then press into the hands to take the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Feel free to continue shifting and moving and checking things out here. Reconnect with your breath. Notice what that feels like in this new at the moment shape. New for us at this very moment here, even though we've probably been here many times before, but there's still this novelty of it happening right at this instant. So notice what that's like. Now let's use an inhale here. We're going to pick up the left leg. With the exhale, you're going to step that forward between the hands. Let's drop the back knee. Inhale to bring your arms up, and then exhale to settle into your lunge here. Now you're going to drape your arms over the top of the head, and then just shift your weight back a little bit into the right knee so you can balance on it. Let's start to apply some of this movement in an active context. So you're going to flex your left foot, and then rotate outwards from the hip. So the knee and the toes are going to rotate outwards together. Bring that back through the center and then rotate in. So we're just switching between external and internal rotation. Let's do that a few more times. You can think about just kind of pivoting on the heel here as you spin between the inner and the outer heel. Let's end with the leg externally rotated. Bring the sole of the foot down onto the floor, and then make sure the knee's tracking over the toes as you lunge a little bit further there. If you want to take your left hand to the thigh, you can. Bring your right hand down to the floor, and then press the hand and the leg into each other to rotate your chest to the left. If you want to take your left arm up, you can. Let's give ourselves an inhale here. And on the exhale, release the left hand to the floor. Bring your left knee and toes towards the front of the mat. Now pick up the back knee, come on up, and we're going to drive into the left foot to bring the right knee up as we come into this crane position here. Now listen closely. You're going to externally rotate your right knee, so your right leg. Knee carves outwards, foot comes in. We're coming to standing pigeon, but you're going to try to do that by just bending your left knee and bringing the left thigh up to meet your right ankle. At the same time, you're trying to lift your right ankle away from that left thigh. So kind of an active entry into your standing pigeon. Eventually, you'll just have the two areas make contact and settle into the more passive version here. Give yourself a nice big breath in and a breath out. All right, unhook the right ankle. Slowly step that back behind you. Let's drop the right knee to the floor. Use an inhale to bring your arms up. Use an exhale to take your hips back and just find a little bit of a release for the back of that left leg there. If you want to bend and unbend the knee a couple of times, you definitely can. So let's end with the left leg straight. Point the toes down towards the floor. Bring your left hand to the inside of your left leg and take a quarter turn over to the right. We're going to be in Parigasana, facing the long edge of the mat. Take your left hand to the outside of your left hip. Float your left leg up. Feel the muscle underneath your fingertips on that outer hip engage. Let's find a couple of pulses here just to really feel that area turn on. Now check this out. Once you've got a touch on how that left outer hip is engaging, let's see if we can, as slowly as you can, lower the foot down and just tap the heel to the floor and then bring it back up with a little bit more speed. So slow, controlled descent of the leg. It's like you're resisting gravity on the way down. And then a sort of explosive lifting up. Let's go a couple more times. And that downward action should feel like there's some work involved there as well. So two separate actions, the concentric and the eccentric, both hard in their own way. And then next time that left foot comes down to the floor, just let it release completely. And then take your left arm up and over. Just find the passive side stretch here. Good. Take an inhale. With the exhale, let's pivot back to the front of the mat. We're taking it back up, downward facing dog. Notice the sensations between your left leg and hip versus the right leg and hip. Find a cycle of breath. And then inhale, take your right leg up and back. Exhale, step it forward. Let's drop the back knee. We've got an inhale to bring the arms up. And then an exhale just to settle in, whatever that means for you. Drape the arms over the top of the head. So they're kind of out of the way. We don't really have to worry about them here. And then you're just going to flex your right foot and then rotate the whole leg outwards together. So the movement's coming from the hip, but you're just observing the motion of the knee and the foot there as you now rotate in. Take a couple more passes, just maybe observing what muscles are engaging to create this movement, how much movement there is available in either direction. And let's end externally rotated. Bring the sole of the foot down and then just make sure knee and toes are tracking together, right hand to right thigh, left hand comes down to the floor, and you can push the hand and the leg into each other to create that little rotation in the chest here. Option to take the right arm up. Good. Take a breath in. With the exhale, hand down, knee turns back towards the front of the mat. Pick up the back knee there and then just come on up. You're going to drive into the right foot to bring the left knee forward. Hands can be in front of the chest here. And we're going to externally rotate the left hip. So knee moves outwards, foot comes in, and you're trying to keep that left ankle lifting here as you now start to bend the standing leg to bring the thigh up to meet the ankle. All right, that last bit should feel kind of challenging before you ease into the passive version here. Take a breath in your standing pigeon. And then stay steady on that right foot as you unhook the ankle. Step that left foot back behind you. Drop the knee. Let's inhale to take the arms up. On the exhale, half splits, take the hips back. And then feel free to bend and unbend. And keep in mind, your leg does not have to be completely straight here. You're just going for some mild tension in a good way, a pleasant sense of release in the back of that right leg. And we're going to end with the leg straight or straight-ish. Point the toes down to the floor. Right hand comes to the inside of the leg, quarter turn to the left. And then just taking your right hand to the right outer hip. So as you float that right leg up to about hip height, feel the muscle tense under your fingertips there. And then find a little pulse. Notice that it's not really a bounce, but a really controlled lifting and lowering. And you're going to maintain a sort of squeeze on that right outer hip muscle, even as you slowly, slowly, slowly lower the foot down towards the floor. And then use that same muscle to bring the leg back up. So slow lowering down and a slightly faster lifting up. So see if you can tune into the subtle differences here in the sensation between these two actions. Of course, you're going to be feeling some work in your left hip as well here. Awesome. And the next time that that right foot is coming down to the floor, let it just come all the way down. Reach your right arm up and over. Take a breath in. And then with the breath out, let's pivot back to the front of the mat. Step it on back, downward facing dog. Now feel free to take a breath or two here. If you'd like to come into a vinyasa, follow me. We're going to inhale to come forward to plank. We're going to exhale to lower down. Now, untuck the toes and press the legs into the floor. Roll the shoulders back, and then inhale to come into cobra. Exhale to release down. Tuck the toes. Come on up, tabletop. Hips up, downward facing dog. Now we're going to build on that and start to add in a little bit of complexity and challenge. With your inhale, left leg up. Exhale, step it through. Let's drop the back knee. Inhale, arms come up. Exhale, just settles you in. Now drape the arms over the top of the head here. Flex your left foot and then rotate that outward. So external rotation. Now this time we're going to right away bring the sole of the foot into the floor. And one more time, notice that the foot and knee are tracking outwards together as you lean into the lunge a little bit more. Now we want some sensation in this left inner thigh. If you're not feeling much here, rotate your chest a little bit over to the right. Left elbow comes to the inside of the left knee. Press the elbow and the leg into each other. You're going to feel this whole inseam of your leg zip up. Let's see if we can keep that as we now take the right arm up and out to the side. Keep the pressure between the arm and the leg there. That work in the inner thigh. Good. And then go ahead and release. Let's flex the left foot again. You're going to pivot that through the center and into internal rotation. We'll do a similar thing here. This time, right hand outside of the left thigh. See if you can press the arm and the leg into each other and maybe get a slightly more subtle sense of engagement in that left outer hip here with the muscle in this lengthened position. Okay, can you keep the pressing, the resisting action as you now take your left arm up and back behind you? Good, take a breath in. And on the exhale, go ahead and release, come back to center. Now grab your blocks here. I recommend tallest height setting. You'll see why in a moment. Put them out in front of you so you're kind of framing your left foot here, or maybe the blocks are a little bit in front of your foot. You're going to pick up the back knee and then keep your left knee fairly bent as you lift your right leg. Bend the right knee and then kick the foot up towards the ceiling. So you're looking for some engagement in that right hip here and the right glute. All right, so we're extending the hip here. Keep your hands on the blocks as you carefully swing the right leg through the blocks and out in front of you, and just tap your right heel to the floor. We're in hip flexion. Let's keep switching between those two shapes. You're kicking up to extend, swinging forward to flex. And as you take the next couple of rounds here, maybe you add on some challenge by floating the right heel off the floor. Or maybe you add on even more challenge by coming into a full pistol squat kind of situation. Good, let's do one more of whatever version you're doing here. We're gonna end in this sort of low warrior 3 situation that we have here. Feel free to move the blocks out of the way, drive into your left foot to bring the right knee forward and up. Externally rotate your right leg. You can have your hands in front of your chest, bend your left knee to bring the left thigh up to meet the right ankle. Your active entry standing pigeon here. Whew, feels pretty good to settle into the passive version. Now here's another fun little thing you can try while you're here if you want. Rotate your chest a little bit to the left, catch a hold of your right foot with your right hand, and then round your spine like you're trying to bring your sternum down to touch your right heel. Maybe you feel a little bit of a nice stretch through the right side of the lower back and into the right outer hip. Take another breath there. Let's come on up, unhook that right ankle, step the right foot back behind you, and we're just going to find a sort of passive pyramid forward fold here. Option to use your blocks here, maybe just hang out to let the back of the left leg release, or maybe you're bending and unbending the left knee. Good. And then set the blocks off to the side. Just real quick, find a quarter turn over to the right, and then bend into your left knee, find a runner's lunge, switch it out. So just find some release here through the inner thighs before coming back to the front of the mat. Downward facing dog, or if you'd like to flow, come with me. We're coming straight into plank pose. Take an inhale. With the exhale, let's lower down. Untuck the toes. Now press the tops of the feet into the floor. Let's inhale to lift into cobra. Listen closely. With the exhale, you're going to release. Now feel free to come up to hands and knees and into down dog, or if you'd like to do a slightly different entry into up dog, follow me. Press the tops of the feet into the floor. Feel the legs activate, and then press into the hands to peel your chest up for cobra. Press down even more through the legs. Establish some tension through the front of the body, and then without sagging, can you use that tension to pick yourself up off the floor in one piece for your upward facing dog? Take an inhale there. With the exhale, hips up, downward facing dog. Reconnect with your breath. All right, inhale, right leg up and back. Exhale, step it on through. Drop the back knee. You've got an inhale to come up and an exhale to settle in. Arms over the top of the head. Just relax the shoulders here. Flex your right foot. Let's rotate the whole leg outwards together. Bring the sole of the foot down into the floor. And before you lunge more, knee is tracking over the toes here. Okay, so we want a little bit of sensation through the right inner thigh. Maybe that means rotating the chest slightly to the left before wedging the right elbow into the inside of the knee and finding that action of the two things pressing into each other. All right, so let's keep that as we take the left arm up and back. So it's almost like you're leveraging the resistance of the elbow into the knee to find the rotation in the rib cage here. Good. And then come on up. Let's go over to the other side. So we've worked on the inner thigh here. Flex your right foot. Find the internal rotation. And then take your left hand to the outside of the right leg here. And again, as you press the two into each other, see if you can connect now with the outer hip and the outer line of the thigh. Right arm reaches back. Good. Take another inhale. Exhale. Go ahead and turn back to center. Grab your blocks. And then find your warrior three kind of shape here. Let's kick the left foot up towards the ceiling with the knee bent. So get a sense of that left glute engaging there. And then let's start to pivot and bring the left leg forward and through. Tap the left heel to the floor. Feel the front of the left hip engage. Switching between those two shapes there. And as before, you've got the option to layer on a bit more challenge. So maybe you're floating the left heel off the floor. Maybe you're coming into a full pistol squat. Let's do one more of whichever version you're doing here. And then we're going to end in this warrior three kind of shape. Move the blocks off to the side and then drive into the right foot to bring the left knee through. Externally rotate at your left hip. Start to bend into the right knee to bring the thigh up to meet the ankle before landing in your passive standing pigeon. Option to stay, or let's add the little twist here. Maybe rotate your chest over to the right, catch a hold of the left foot with your left hand, and then use that to pull yourself into this diagonal forward rounded shape here. And just get into the left side of the low back and maybe slightly more deeply into the left outer hip. Awesome. Unwind, unhook your left ankle, step that back behind you. We're staying in the high lunge and just finding the release for the back of the right leg here. Maybe it's just hanging out. Maybe it's bending and unbending the knee a couple of times. And then move the blocks out of the way. Quick little quarter pivot over to the left for a couple of runner's lunges. Just getting the backs of the legs and the inseams of the legs to Release a little bit. And then as we pivot back to the front of the mat, again, you've got an option to head straight to down dog, or if you'd like to flow, let's meet up in plank pose. We've got a breath in. We've got the exhale to lower us down. Untuck the toes, press the legs into the floor. And now you're just practicing keeping the legs really active here as you inhale to peel your chest up and exhale to release down. Option to come up through tabletop and head to down dog. Otherwise, we've got our active entry upward facing dog. Press the legs into the floor, peel the chest up, and then press into the hands and the feet equally. So everything that's left on the floor picks up in one piece. Good, take a breath in. And on the breath out, use the belly to lift the hips up. Downward facing dog. Let's come into child's pose or whatever resting pose works for you. Maybe you come onto your belly or even find a seated shape for a moment. And without needing anything to change or be different here, just notice the sensations in the body, both the really obvious muscular engagement or fatigue or some lingering traces of those. Notice the quality of the breath, the interaction between your body and the breath here. It's an opportunity to fine-tune the awareness so that we can maybe bring that into the remainder of our practice here. Good. Just one more moment here. And take your time to find your way out. And a couple more breaths to come to downward facing dog. No rush to get there. And I've got one last standing sequence and we'll put some of this together even more comprehensively here. So let's use an inhale, left leg up. Exhale to step it forward. And this time we're coming to warrior two. So spin the back heel down. Come on up to stand. And don't worry about your arms for now. Let's set up this front leg here. Rotate the knee outwards just a little bit, enough that you can feel the outer line of the leg engage. And then imagine that your outer knee and your outside hip are connected and those 2 points are moving towards each other. So there's a tangible feeling of tension between those 2 points. Press down through the ball of your big toe, feel the inseam of your leg zip up, and now imagine inner knee and groin are connected. Again, there's a little tension between those 2 points. Imagine like a loop of dynamic energy around this front thigh. Imagine the inner knee and the outer hip and the groin, those 4 points. When we bend and unbend the knee, those points are like moving parallel, like on train tracks. So there's no shifting side to side of the knee. Everything's just tracking along those parallel lines. That's our focus. Let's see if we can maintain that as we now inhale to reverse. Exhale to come forward to triangle. Focus on the tracking of the knee and the thigh there. Now listen closely with your inhale, side angle. Just bend your left knee a little bit and pull your right arm into cactus. Exhale, still tracking as you come back to Trikonasana. Keep the triangle leg. Let's inhale to reverse. Still tracking on the exhale as we rebend for warrior two. Use an inhale, hike the shoulders up. Exhale, soften them down. Let's go a couple more times. We've got an inhale to reverse, an exhale to come to triangle. Inhale, rebend cactus arm for this modified side angle. Exhale, triangle. Triangle legs stay as we inhale to reverse. Exhale to settle back into our warrior two. Inhale, shoulders up. Exhale, soften them down. We've got one more. Inhale. Exhale, triangle. Inhale, cactus arm, side angle, knee is tracking. Exhale, triangle. Inhale, reverse triangle. Exhale, Settle into your warrior two. Let's take a breath in and then exhale to soften the shoulders. Now, half moon, you're going to want a block for this. Set that out in front of you. And as you come up to stand on your left foot there, don't even worry about your right leg yet. So just keep the toes on the floor. Lift up through the arch of your left foot, zip up the whole inseam into the groin, and then see if you can lift up through the outer edge of your foot as well and connect that into the outer hip. Everything should feel super engaged here. Let's see if we can keep that. Hand on the block as we float the back leg. And check this out. Bring your right hand to your right outer hip. Pulse the right leg up and down a couple of times. Now we'll add a little bit of more challenging eccentric work for this right outer hip here. Follow me. Keep the rotation of the leg and the hip as you slowly, slowly, slowly bring the right foot down. Maybe you tap it to the back of your left ankle, or maybe you even cross it in front of the left foot a little bit before bringing it back up. We've got the slowest possible lowering down of the right foot without losing the rotation. And you're just using that right outer hip muscle to control the whole trajectory of the movement. And of course, your left leg and hip is working super hard here as well. And after you're ready to be done with this, let's go ahead and step the right foot back and then straighten the left leg just to give it a little bit of a break there. Let's reverse. Good. Cartwheel the hands down. And now option plank through flow or downward facing dog, maybe some cat-cow or a child's pose. Do your thing. I'm just going to let you go kind of free form here depending on what you feel like doing. And we'll meet up in downward facing dog. Good time to check back in. How does your left leg feel versus your right leg? We did two pretty different things here, and we're about to even it out. All right, use your inhale. Sweep your right leg up and back behind you. And then with the exhale, let's step it forward. Back heel comes to the floor. We're setting up our warrior two legs. Don't worry about the arms just yet. Okay. Track the right knee outwards. Connect outer knee to the outer hip. Feel that little line of tension there. Press down through the ball of the big toe. Zip up from the inner knee to the groin. And then imagine all of the muscles of the thigh just kind of hugging up towards the bone here. Now imagine those 4 points. Again, everything just tracking along those parallel lines. Find your warrior two. Let's inhale to reverse. Exhale for triangle. Inhale, just a subtle rebending of the right knee. Cactus arm for your side angle. Exhale, still tracking as you find your triangle. Inhale, keep the triangle legs as you reverse. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale. Exhale, soften the shoulders. Inhale, reverse. Exhale, triangle. Inhale, side angle with the cactus arm. Exhale, triangle. Inhale, take it back. Exhale, warrior two. Feel the knee tracking there. Good. Inhale. Exhale, soften the shoulders. Let's go one more time. Inhale, reverse. Exhale, triangle. Inhale, modified side angle. Exhale, back to triangle. Inhale, reverse. Exhale, warrior two. Let's take a breath in and a breath out to soften the shoulders. Let's head into our half moon. Grab your block and don't worry about picking up the back foot just yet. So we're going to set up the right leg first. Zip up the entire inseam of the leg all the way up into the groin as you lift through the inner arch of the foot. And see if you can lift up through the outer arch and feel that connect all the way up into your outer hip. So now it's almost like that energy loop is around your whole leg. So let's keep that as we float the back leg. Find a couple of little pulses there. Option to keep the left hand on the outer hip. And then without losing the rotation of the leg. So you're knee and toes are going to continue pointing towards the long edge of your mat as you slowly bring the foot down. Maybe tap the back of the right ankle or even cross that left leg a little bit in front of your right foot. All right, let's do a few more. And again, it's the same as what we were doing in our Parigasana earlier. So you're just resisting the pull of gravity on the way down by slowing down, and then you're resisting gravity by coming up a little bit faster. Just making the most of what we've got to work with here for these strengthening actions. And then as you wrap that up, find a slow step back. Let's straighten the front leg and reverse our triangle here. Oof. All right, so let's kind of get the legs to now work in a slightly more, well, not a slightly more, a lot more symmetrical manner. It's going to be super simple, but really nice. So heels and toes out, bend your knees a little bit, track them outwards, get the outer line engaged, press down through the balls of the big toes, lift the arches, get the inseam to engage. Then imagine those 2 points, inner and outer knee, just tracking on those parallel train tracks. Hands in front of your chest. That's all you're doing is lifting and lowering a little bit. Inhale to come up. Exhale to soften in. And as you take the next couple of rounds, just notice how nice it feels here to have the legs sharing the work. So both are doing the same thing and really sharing the load here. If you want to add the arms, you can. So maybe you're lifting and then exhaling to settle in. See if you could reduce the effort here even more. So how little could you do and still keep that tracking effect in the knees and the groin and the outer hip? Let's do one more of whichever you're working on here. And then just folding forward over the legs. Take a little bend into one knee and then the other. And then as you pivot back to the front of your mat, we've got one last chance to flow here if you'd like to take it. And take another moment as you land into your final downward facing dog of your practice, just to feel things out. All right, and then come on down to your back. Just bring one of your blocks with you or your folded blanket if that's what you're using, and have that within arm's reach. If you're using the block, you're going to have it on its lowest height setting. So we're going to take an active entry into bridge pose here. So lowest height setting will work perfect. Now, as you come down onto your back, knees bent, feet about hip distance apart. Just relax your arms down by your sides. And then let's press into the feet to lift the hips up. So just feel both glutes working here. Go ahead and pick up your right foot, feel your left glute working a little bit more. Maybe take a little quick pulse up and down with that left leg there. Now pause and then straighten your right leg out in front of you and bring the heel or the whole sole of the foot down onto the floor, depending on what you've got access to. Press down through both feet. Notice how different the sensation is between the back of the left hip and the right hip and the hamstrings. Just pause here for another moment. Keep lifting the hips and pressing down into the feet. And while you do that, grab a hold of your block. And again, just slide it on its slowest height setting under the back of your pelvis before releasing the hips down onto it. It should feel like a huge relief. Good. Take a breath there. And then hug your left knee into your chest. If you like, or if it feels helpful, adjust the position of your right leg. So maybe you bend the right knee a little bit. And what you're looking for is just a pleasant sense of release in the front of the right hip crease there. You might get a little bit more or a little bit of something different by taking your right arm up and back behind you as well. And just feel free to explore that, knowing that we don't necessarily need to go for a stronger stretch or more sensation. In fact, maybe after all that work, this could be a nice opportunity to wind down, experience a different type of sensation in the body from the opposite end of the spectrum. And as the body softens and becomes still, maybe allow the breath to downshift as well. And let's slowly switch sides. Release your left foot to the floor and bring your right foot back in. And just pause here and notice how things feel or if they feel different between the two hips. And you're going to slide your block up from the back of the pelvis, release the hips down to the floor, and then just press down through the feet to find your easy bridge pose. No need to go for a big back bend here. Feel both glutes working. And then pick up your left foot. Feel the right glute working a bit more. We pulse the hips up and down once or twice. Extend your left leg and then bring the heel or the whole sole of the foot down into the floor. Now press down through both legs. Feel the engagement, but also the differences in the engagement between the two sides and the glutes and the hamstrings. Grab your block, slide that underneath the back of your pelvis, and relax. Bring your right knee into your chest. Feel free to adjust the position of your left foot here, bending the knee a little bit more or less. And then feel free to experiment with reaching the left arm up and back behind you. Couple more breaths here, just allowing yourself to melt down into the floor, into the block, or your folded blanket. And release your right foot to the floor. Bring your left foot in and just pause here in the supported bridge for a moment to feel both glutes softening, that gentle opening through the hip creases. The inner thighs, the muscles there just hanging off the bone. Now lift your hips up just enough that you can slide the block out from underneath you and walk your feet over to the edges of your mat. Just find that little windshield wipering motion here. Notice how rich in sensation even this simple movement is with all of the awareness that you've built in this area. Notice the effects of the movement trickling down into the legs, up through the belly, the chest, and your back. You have some options for Shavasana here. Maybe it's keeping the feet wide and bringing the knees back to center and letting them rest into each other. Maybe it's bringing the soles of the feet together and letting the knees drop wide. If you've got a pair of blocks, it might feel really nice to support the knees here so that you're not completely at end range. Might just extend the legs and find your traditional Shavasana shape here. But the main thing is just to pick something that feels helpful and productive and allows you to relax. And give yourself permission to rest and really savor the rest after this work here. A few minutes of complete relaxation. Now just gently nudge your awareness back in the direction of the physical body. And maybe noticing sensations of texture, or temperature, or pressure. And take a slightly deeper inhale into this container of your body and notice how it effortlessly expands to take that in. And then just as effortlessly springs back as you exhale to let the air out. And slowly go ahead and lengthen your legs out in front of you and take your arms up and back behind you. Let's find a full body stretch there. Bend your knees and roll over to one side. Feel free to keep your eyes closed and just feel your way. Allow your body to settle into whatever seated shape it wants to wind up in. Just briefly, gently focus the awareness around the structure of the hips, the legs, and feel all those parts also settle. And bring your hands in front of your chest. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today. Namaste. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and joining me for class today. It is really nice that we get to practice together, even in this virtual format. So I really appreciate you guys being here. Lee, I'm so glad you like that. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Maybe there's something in there that resonated with you or felt useful or challenging. I always love to hear what you guys think and what feels relevant and productive for you. So feel free to leave a comment on the chat there, or find me on social media. I'm just Yenny Tarma on Instagram. My first and last names together. So I always love to hear from you guys and just get some feedback on what feels helpful and useful and what you're working on, what you're practicing at the moment as well. Lorena, appreciate your emoji as well. Thank you for being here. Um, I was not here last month because I was actually traveling to see my family, but we're all back to the regular monthly schedule now. So I'll be here on four Wednesdays from now at the usual same time. So feel free to hop in. Hip openers, yeah, it's so funny. Hip openers are wonderful, and I always think of, I mean, even the more active stuff that we were doing today, I kind of think of that as hip openers too, because typically when we talk about hip openers, we're talking about like pigeon and the externally rotated positions. But of course, we have muscles all around the hip, not just the ones that do the external rotation. So I think like the hips become open in a general sense when we have good interaction and functionality and balance between all of those muscles. So thanks for that, Lee. What did you think of the active standing pigeon? I just thought of that randomly a couple of days ago, and I found it like really hard in a good way. um, that's one of my favorite things is to take a more like passive pose and turn it into an active version because I feel like it can completely alter the sensation or even like the purpose of the shape. We can use it in a totally different way to create some new sensations and some new engagement, which ultimately that's kind of how we turn that range of motion into something that is truly functional, something that we can use in our movement. Difficult but good. Thanks. Um, yeah, so I love the passive stuff and I love the active stuff. I think that they both occupy a really interesting and useful place in our movement diets, and it's just about knowing what to use for what purpose, what's the desired end state or a desired outcome, and then how do we execute a certain movement or cue a certain movement if we're teaching it, to get to that end state. So it's kind of like a little bit of detective work, or working backwards from where you want to be, and then putting the pieces of the puzzle together to try to sort of create the formula that then makes that end state happen. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed nerding out with me, and this kind of maybe slightly brainy, cerebral approach to movement. Yeah, let's hang out again next month, and hit me up on social media in the meantime if you feel like it. Thank you guys. Hope you have good rest of your Wednesday, and an awesome rest of your week. If you're in the US, enjoy your Labor Day as well. I'll see you guys all soon. Thanks so much. Bye.